Hi there, this is Miss Taggart. In this video we're going to be looking at different types of averages. This is part of a statistical topic and it's used in third level, fourth level. It's touched upon even in National 5 app still. A lot of the bits we look at the mean, mode, median and range. Now mean is usually something you've heard of at primary that's been called the average, but now we talk about, well, there's more than one way to get an average. And when we come to do topics further down in National 5, it's good to remember that there are different types of averages. It's just not always what you've been shown so far at primary. So these are some new words for most of you. So what happens is there's different averages, some are more relevant than others, depending on the context of what the data is. Quite often we just give you a list of numbers and say, tell us the mean, tell us the mode. But then some of them are no use in real life, so think about people who actually work these out. So if you were a shoe shop owner, and you worked out that the mean shoe size was 6.5. This is when you've added up all the different sizes of shoes you've sold and divided by the number of shoes you've sold and you get a 6.5. That doesn't help you when you're coming to replenish your stock. You're not going to order in loads of 6.5s because the average shoe size is 6.5. What that's telling you is, yeah, that's the average shoe size, but it's not your most popular size shoe. So then you would look at something else. You would say, well, what was my most popular size shoe, which was a 7? That's going to help you and be of more interest to you. Right, so let's have a look at what those different averages are called. First one is mean. I've already kind of talked about that. The mean is when you add up everything, so that is a total of your numbers. Let me just get my pen onto the right colour. So the mean is your total of all your values, so total of values, and then you divide that by the number of values. I'm going to write NO for short because I don't have enough room here. So the number of values. So what you do, you would add up all your items and divide by how many items you were. So if you were adding up 4 test scores, you would add them all up, divide by 4, and that would tell you what your mean score is. That is no longer called your average score. But we could say, oh, my average score is. But average score could now mean one of these other things. So it's your mean score when you add them all up. The next one is your mode. Now mode can also be called modal. I know we change things to complicate it. So if I ask you the modal value or what was the mode, it stands for the most common. It's the one that appears the most or the most frequent answer. So when I was talking about the guy ordering shoes for his shoe shop, that's what we're looking at. He'd be looking at the mode here. What was the most common shoe size? So that is the most common value. Now, sometimes there isn't one. Sometimes there's 2. Sometimes it's very clear there's just one. Then we have the range. So I always explain this in a class and say, right, if I wanted the range in people, I'm looking at the tallest and shortest. And I would say the heights range from this to that. But the actual range, we need it as a number. The range is your highest value, take away your lowest value. So your tallest, take away your shortest. It's the difference between the highest temperature and the lowest temperature. But it's a subtraction sum, so it's highest, take away lowest. And then median is the last one. This might be a bit new. Median is your middle. So that is your middle value. But one little flaw to this is it must be of an ordered list. Quite often we don't give you the list in order. So to get the median, you have to put it into order to find the middle one. So we're going to be looking at all these. Now there is a little poem to help you remember it. And the poem is, hey diddle diddle, the median's the middle, you add and divide for the mean. The mode is the one that appears the most and the range is the difference between. I sometimes say that appears but as you see the most instead. So that's kind of said to the rhyme of the cow and the fiddle jumped over the moon one. So hey diddle diddle, the median's the middle. That's normally one that people find the hardest to remember. So even if you remember the first 2 lines, you add and divide for the mean. The mode is the one that you see the most and the range is the difference between. If it helps, it helps. I've got this on my wall and literally most people use it just to get the median because that's the one they forget. Anyway, let's look at this in action. So I'm going to use, for my examples, I'm going to use these guys that you should all recognise. Now, for the sake of this question, you might be thinking, I don't think Bart and Lisa are the same height. Today they are, okay? So here are the Simpsons. I have got all of them lined up. So all the family are there. I want to know the mean of their height. So that is the one where we add them all up and divide. So if you add up all these ages, you get 810. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write down that the mean is 810, or the total is 810. Then I'm going to write down that I'm dividing by 5 family members, so I'm dividing by 5. Now the reason I think it's really handy that you write down the total and what you're dividing by is A, it gets you an extra mark maybe in a test, because you've shown you're working, and B, because your calculator will do BODMAS if you try it in one go. So for me, it's to try and make my pupils do it in 2 steps, get the total, then divide. Because your calculator, if you were to add all these up like this, and then hit a divide by 5 on the end, what your calculator's going to do is it's going to do BODMAS, and it's going to do that divide by sum first, and then you're going to have a crazy number that's way bigger than everyone's heights and doesn't look right. So please remember, don't do that. It is your total divided by 5, and please write down the total first. I can say it till I'm blue in the face, and some of my pupils still ignore me. Hopefully you will listen to this. So we're doing 810 divided by 5, and that gives us 162. Now, this could have been with a calculator. It could have been done by doing some sums at the side. I've used a calculator for speed. So that gives me 162. So that means that the average, the mean height is 162 centimetres. Now, is that a good representation of everyone? Well, it's hard to say because obviously it suits, but it's actually lower than 3 of the family members. 162, if I was to put it in order, it would be before 4 of the family members. So I don't think it's a great representation. I think it's maybe because of obviously Maggie's brought it down an awful lot, and Marge has brought it back up. So anyway, average height 162 centimetres, even though that's still double what poor wee Maggie is. The mode is one that appears the most. You'll notice Bart and Lisa are the same. So the mode or the modal height is 165 centimetres. Okay, same as, let's look at the other bit. We're going to do the range. So range is highest, take away lowest. So the highest value was Marge, which was 210. Take away the lowest, which was Maggie, which was 85, leaving us a difference of 125 centimetres. So the range in height, this was 125 centimetres. And then the median is the middle. Now, to get the middle, these guys need to be in order. So I'm going to quickly just rewrite these heights in order from small to big. So smallest was 85, highest was 210, 165, 165, and then Homer at 185. So the middle value was 165. So median value, 165 centimetres. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring another character into the Simpsons family. I'm going to bring in the bus driver. Always forget his name. Maybe you know it. So I've brought in the bus driver, and I've got rid of Lisa and brought in Milhouse instead here. So I've now got 6 people. How does that affect the median? So the median in the last one, because I had an odd amount of people, there was a middle number. This time I don't have a middle person. So what I do is I'm going to draw a line down the middle between the 2 middle people, and I'm going to focus on their heights. So the median this time is the middle of those 2 values. Now you can see that they're 10 apart. So the median value is 5 more than Bart and 5 less than the bus driver guy. So that gives us 170 centimetres. There is another way to get the median if the numbers are a bit trickier and a bit more, not as obvious a gap like that, is you could add the 2 of them together and half it. So if I add Bart and him whose name I forget together, I actually get a height of 340. When I half 340, I get the 170. Okay, let's look at it. Another one about Bart. So this time Bart was washing some cars for some pocket money. He was given money from 12 of his neighbours. Now, very misrepresentation, quite out-of-date numbers, but it does the job. So we're going to take these values of money and we're going to calculate the mean, mode, median and range again. Now what I'm going to do is on my next slide I'm actually going to put them in order. They need to be in order for me to get the median, so I may as well put them out in order first. What did we have again? We had 12. So here are my values. Now how many neighbours? That just saves me counting up. There are 12 numbers here. So I'm going to follow the same order. I'm going to get the mean first of all. So the mean, if I get my calculator and add all these up, I will get 600 pence. And then I'm going to do 600 pence divided by 12. 600 divided by 12 gives me 50p. Now one thing I didn't mention actually is, remember I had a pound there? I turned it all into pennies. I could have turned it all into decimals, but it was easier to turn it all into pennies because there was less to change that way. So I turned them into 100 pence. So there is my mean. Then we will do the mode or the modal. So which one appears the most? Well, there's 3 of this one, so the mode was 20 pence. So Bart could say, oh well, the mean amount on average I got was 50p, or he could say on average I got 20p, which meant the more people gave him 20p than anything. Then the other one is the range. So range is highest, take away lowest, so that's 100 pence, take away 10 pence, which is 90 pence. And then the last one, the median, is the middle. Now we have got 12 numbers. So you can count in from each end, or you could split 12 into 2 groups. 2 groups of 6, nobody left over, so there's no middle value. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I put a line, and I double check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the other side. So I found the middle. So my median is between two numbers again. So between 50 and 55 will be 52.5 pence. So which is the best representation of the data here, you might ask? So could it be on average everyone gave them 50p? Looks not bad. It's kind of in the middle there, isn't it? 50p is a good shout. Is about the same amount above as it is below for 50 pence. The mode, is that a good representation? Well, the mode is actually 3 of the 4 lowest values. So there's like 8 other people gave a lot more than 20p, so I don't think 20p is a good representation. Is 90p a good representation? Well, 90p falls right up here, almost at the highest bit, so I don't think it's fair to say my average was 90 pence. Then I've got the median of 52.5. Well, you could argue you can't get 52.5p, but it is pretty close to the mean. So in this case, the mean and the median are actually a good representation that Bart could say, on average, I got around 50 pence. And around 50 pence probably caters for this middle amount of the numbers. Anyway, I'm going to do one more example with no information about it. This is what I would put up the next day as my starter. I've already put them in order purely to save me a bit of time. Right, so the mean. I have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 numbers this time. When I add them up, I get 360. So my mean is 360, and there was 9 numbers, so I'm dividing by 9, which gives me 40. Not always a nice number, but I think I've done that deliberately to make my questions easier to do. So the mean here is 40. The mode, which one appears the most? Well, the mode was 19. The range is 79 for the highest, take away 15 for the lowest, giving me 64. And the median, I had 9 numbers, so if you split 9 people into 2 groups, you've got 2 groups of 4 and a leftover person in the middle. So I'm going to count in 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to circle this one and just check there's 4 on the other side. So the median is 34. So there is my answers for that. So I hope that has helped. It's really handy to try and commit these terms and phrases to memory and remember what they all stand for, or even if you just remember the wee rhyme. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.